In order to achieve any financial dream or goal, it's important that we begin with an understanding and with the definition of the term wealth and financial freedom. I believe that anyone can achieve financial freedom. As a matter of fact, it's my honest hope and prayer that everyone finds freedom. And by freedom, I'm really talking about two parts of freedom. Although we're dealing here with wealth, I'm really referring to freedom from the point of view of having time and money freedom. Because you can have money freedom, but not have time freedom. Or you might have time freedom, but not be financially free. And so it is my honest desire and hope that everyone finds financial freedom. And I genuinely believe everyone can. That is a rather bold statement to make. And I'm hoping that in the next few minutes, I can show you perhaps how you can begin that journey. Because it starts with awareness. You know, many people believe that they need resources. Some people say, I don't have money. I don't have the resources. I don't have the capital. So how can I become wealthy? And I always start by saying, you've got to understand what you have. Most times, most people are looking around and saying, I don't have something. And they're focusing on what they don't have. It's not what you don't have. In many cases, what you think you need. And so my first recommendation is to ask yourself a simple question. What have you got? What do you have? Because in many cases, as I've found from my life, particularly in every instance, every time I've come up with a reason in my life why I couldn't do something, I found that it wasn't due to a lack of resources. It was due to a lack of resourcefulness. In other words, I couldn't see what I had. I was looking across the gates to see what was out there that I could use. Now, you've heard people say this so many times. The grass might be greener on the other side. I usually say, well, the grass is just green. And in many cases, you must think about what you have. In the early 1900s, there was a man who had a passion, a burning passion. I've got to tell you this story before I move on. Burning passion for gold. He sold his ranch and he decided that he was going to travel across, leaving his ranch in California, Southern California. He discovered that part of Southern California, they had discovered gold. This was back in the gold rush days. So he sold his ranch and he traveled in pursuit of his passion or his dream to discover gold. He sold his farm to someone called Colonel Sadhas. Now, Colonel Sadhas bought the farm and Colonel Sadhas had a daughter. And one evening, Colonel Sadhas was in the house. This was on a ranch, on a farm. And they had a stream of water running down the plot of land. On this particular evening, Colonel Sadhas had a guest. And they were sitting in the living room and having a conversation. Outside, Colonel Sadhas' daughter was playing next to the pond. And as she scooped her hand into the sand, playing like a young child she was, she walked into the house. And as she walked into the house, she walked close to the fireplace. And as she got closer to the fireplace, Colonel Sadhas and his guest observed that his daughter's hand was glowing. They went closer and they realized it was gold. You see, on the same ranch, they discovered gold. As a matter of fact, it was a gold reserve that is known as Sadhas Mill. It was one of the largest gold reserves along the North American continent. Billions in today's money, in terms of purchasing power, was mined from that same farm. This was a farm that always had gold. The person who had it previously didn't recognize it. They thought the grass was greener on the other side, and they left what they had in pursuit of something that didn't exist. Now, why am I talking about this, and how does it have anything to do with wealth? Now, I share this because I believe that all of us have been given a great reservoir of talent, abilities, and skills. Now, many people say, well, I have nothing, I'm born poor, I I was raised in a ghetto. I was raised under difficult circumstances. I've heard all of that. My story in many cases may not be too dissimilar to yours. I understand what poverty is. I was born in one. But we had different philosophies about life. Now, we may have been materially poor, but we were spiritually rich because we had the right attitude, the right philosophy, and that is what you need. The right philosophy, the right attitude. And that begins with recognizing who you are and what you have. Now, you might be thinking, I understand what you're saying, Mensah, but I don't understand how that's true because you don't really know what I'm going through. Allow me to share some of my thoughts with you. There are 7 billion people in the world today. 7 billion. Now, although there's 7 billion people in the world today, have you thought about this truth? That none of us is like you. There will never be another me. No one alive today is exactly like me. No one alive is exactly like you. No one has the same DNA, fingerprints. No one else can laugh, smile, cry, sing. No one can actually have their heart beats at the same rate. No one is like you. Now, we've had 107 billion people who have lived and who have moved on. Of the 107 billion people who lived, none of them was like you. Now, at some point, our journey here will be over. And although our journey comes to an end and life will continue, there still would never be another like you. Now, that is powerful. What that says to me is that you were selected, made beautifully and wonderfully and specially for a time such as this, and that you have a purpose and you have a lot of potential within you. Now, that also suggests to me that you have something that we call rarity. Now, the value of something is not always based on what one person is willing to pay for it. The value of something is often based on how rare that item is. The blue diamonds are very rare. Therefore, they're very expensive. You are much, 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 much more in value than the rarest form of diamonds. Your value is too much that no one can put a price on it. Actually, the human mind cannot really put a price on what you're worth. Now, that gives you an idea about how significant you are. That gives you an idea of how important and valuable you are. Now, you have to recognize that. Now, in addition to that value and that uniqueness you have, you've been given all of the assets that can help you become the best you can be. You have a brain with 100 billion cells. You have been given higher faculties, imagination, will, perception, intuition, reason, and memory. These faculties can create any level of wealth you can imagine. As a matter of fact, the imagination is so powerful. Now, I want to just draw your attention to something I read. And this appears in both sides of if you read the Quran or if you read the Bible. There's a section that I read in the early part of both books. And it said, and I don't know if this is particularly true, but I'm not a theologian, I'm not a scholar, but I'm going to share what I read. This section of the book says that the first time God came down on earth, now this is what the book says, I don't want you to judge me. Now, you may not have any beliefs. You might be one of those people who you don't have any belief. That's okay. I don't really mind. But I want you to listen for the key part of what I'm trying to share with you. It says that God came down for the first time. Why? Because men were building a tower. This is what the book says. Men were building a tower. But when God came down, he says that the men who were building the tower were so focused and committed. They had a vision. Although their original intent was not good, God said, this is so interesting, God said, what they've imagined in their mind, they can do. Now, I find that really powerful, that even God recognized the power of the mind, meaning, I can't stop them, because they're using something that is a law that I've created. The laws of the universe are infallible, they are perfect, they are precise, and they guarantee the promise. But he said, These people who are building this tower, they have a vision. They've connected to a purpose. They have a mind. And whatever they've conceived in their mind, they can achieve it. Now, although they were doing things that were not good, God recognized the power of the mind. You have a mind. You just got to use it. Now, in addition to your mind, you have other things. You have a heart that helps you regulate and guides you towards making the right decisions and communicates between your brain and your mind. You have a body unique to you alone, a body that can help you achieve your dreams while your mind dreams the dreams and your heart regulates the decision. Your body supports the whole mission. You have a unique body, a body that science is still trying to understand, a really special body. In addition to that, you have what we call a potential that is unlimited, meaning there is no beginning, there is no end. So when you think of the likes of Edison and all the great people who discovered so much and gave so much back to the world, they're no better than you. They're no more intelligent than you. They've just used their mind. But your potential is infinite. It's unlimited. All you have to do is take a leap. Try it. Try what you have. Now, in addition to that, you've been allowed to be in a time and been born into a time when there's so much wisdom around. Now, we've had about 7,000 years of recorded history. And in that period, we've had stories and long list of stories of great people who documented all of their successes and people who documented their failures, giving you two sides of the ledger, one of them to tell you what you can do and to succeed, but the other to guide you of what you must not do. So you have access to all of the wisdom of the world around you, which a lot of it is free. Now, let me share something with you. Do you realize that if you walk down the streets anywhere, and I believe this to be true, I don't know, depending on where you're watching from, perhaps, there might be exceptions, but I believe that if you walk down the streets and you stopped someone, perhaps who was maybe financially well off than you did, and you said, listen, I have a desire and I don't have the means, but there is a book I want, and would you be kind enough to bear the burdens of purchasing that book for me? If this is a book on success, now a lot of these books you can buy at second-hand value. You don't have to buy them brand new. It's not the ink on the book, it's really the content. Most people that you stop will be happy to invest in knowledge, in your wisdom and your understanding, if that's all you want. Many people will give you food. You walk down the street and say, I'm hungry. People will stop and say, okay, let me buy you something to eat. But when you stop people and you say, listen, I have a need to feed my mind and I need help, most people will go out of their way to help you. So there's wisdom all around you. Now, in addition to this wisdom from 7,000 years till today, we also have right now, today, a lot of successful people who we can use as mentors. People you can model yourself on. You can study their beliefs, study their lifestyle, study their habits. And with that, you can simply do exactly what they do. And you get the same result. Why? Because success leaves behind clues. And like the universal laws, like a soil does not really care who you are. It doesn't care whether you're black or white, male or female, rich or poor. A soil simply says, I don't discriminate. If you put good seed in me, I will give you a good harvest. Guaranteed. In the same way, if you apply the laws of life, you will get the same results. If you study successful people, if you study their beliefs, if you model their beliefs, if you model their habits, if you model their lifestyle, you will get good results. Now, all of that, I can go on and on for a while, but if I were just to stop so far and say, you have a lot of assets, a lot of resources in you. Now, everything I've described, you can access within, maybe with the exception of the books, but you can access within. Then you have all the resources you need to start pursuing your dreams. So if you want to create wealth, begin where you are with what you have and start today. Stop waiting for the future when things are going to get better. Sit down, decide what you want. Once you've decided what you want, identify a timeline for achieving that goal Next, identify the sacrifices you're going to have to make to achieve those, and then make a resolution within your heart that you're going to pay the price. And every day, take steps that move you in the direction of that dream or that goal. And what you find is by using these resources that you already have, you find that you will, meet with success in many cases when you least expect it. Now, I hope that comes true in your case. I want to wish you the best. I believe that your dreams can be achieved. I want you to believe that your dreams can be achieved, because I know that where two people agree, if two people come together and agree on a purpose, on a mission, or on a vision, I believe that their success, whether individual or collective, will be determined by the strength of their agreement. So I come into agreement with you. Whatever you want, as long as it's something for good, as long as it's something that will create peace, joy, happiness, love, and prosperity for you and for those you care for the world, I come into agreement with you on those areas. I want to wish you the best of luck.